Welcome into the Jordy Culotta Show. Wave your hand out there, baby!
Shout out to the show.
She puts the pinky into the nostril. Man, look at that.
Healthy competition, there's nothing like it.
Y'all grow up.
The line's wrapped around the stadium.
Different strengths. I just lost a tooth.
It's going to be fun.
You know, we might have a story.
I love what you're doing.
Ogeron wants to take us fishing this afternoon.
Sharif, you play for the bad boys of the SEC, man. We don't apologize to anybody.
A lot of people are saying you're going to be wearing number 7.
I don't really know. I want to. He look crazy, Bill.
Good feet on the old man.
Definitely come back.
We'll be right back with the Jordy Culotta Show. Welcome into a Monday morning edition of the Jordy Culotta Show, driven and powered by Go Chevrolet right here on this Monday morning. I appreciate you starting your week here with us. Make sure and hit that like button, share button, comment button. If you have not already subscribed, please hit that subscription button for us as we get going on this Monday morning. We will talk to Jake Crain of Crain Company an hour from now and get his thoughts to the Final Four shakeout. LSU learns their bowl destination and who they will be playing. Do you care? Are you going? We'll ask and talk about it coming up here on the Jordy Culotta Show. We'll also talk to Neil Weiner before we get out of here at 9 a.m. Coach Weiner, the Dunham head football coach, was in an instant classic on Friday night versus University High over at his Dunham field as the Tigers stamped their ticket for the Dome to for a state championship. We'll talk to him about his quarterback, Jackson House, who
got
is
out-schemed.
Matt House's son, who had an incredible semifinal game. We'll talk to him about this week in high school football before we get out of here. It's an enormous day for college football. The transfer portal is open for business. This is going to be a kind of monumental day here for college football. This is kind of the first of its kind where you will see really a free-for-all, right, on players. As you've seen over the weekend, a lot of announcements of guys going into the transfer portal, entering their name into the portal, but nobody could be contacted legally, right? I mean, like, legitimately, nobody could be contacted. And I can tell you that I have had conversations with coaches at LSU about players, about families, about people who are interested in coming to LSU, and they have been steadfast on, we will not open up communication with anyone in the transfer portal until Monday, December 5th. And here we are. So this should be a pretty wild day in college football, as you will see some big names bounce around. There's some names that we're not even talking about right now that we will be talking about by the end of the day. Speaking of the day, this is a monumental day over here at FM Digital Media, as this was a vision that Katie and I had, and now we're really starting to see it take shape, and this Monday is a great representation of that. If you're tuned in now to the Jordy Culotta Show, you will have options coming your way all day. Real quick, before we get into LSU, before we get into the SEC championship, before we get into the bowl prediction, or excuse me, the bowl announcements and the Final Four. Real quick here at FM Digital Media today, we've seen the studio expand. We've got another studio that we're running a couple of shows out of, and we will have options for you all day long. So make sure that you are subscribed to all of our properties over here. Starting this morning, 7 to 9 a.m., Jordy Culotta Show. Coming up at 10 o'clock this morning, Kador, chopping it up with Roger Kador and crew. We'll go from 10 to 11 o'clock. At 1 o'clock today, we will have the Will Wade Show, which will debut here on FM Digital Media. Make sure you're subscribed to all the social media for Wade and the podcast. That'll be coming up at 1 o'clock today. Then at 3 o'clock, a new show, Out of My League with Nick Diaz, will debut here on FM Digital Media. He'll be over in the new studio, and then following him up, it'll be Mikey Matuk and Mic'd Up, airing from 6 to 8 o'clock at its regular time slot here at FM. We're fired up about the day. We're really excited about what's going on over here. We've got a lot of options as far as programming goes to advertisers, and we're looking forward to bringing that into the streets and seeing how you can align your businesses with what we have going on over here. And it's exciting times. So stick around here on FM Digital Media all day. And if you can't, all of that stuff is always on demand for you. Podcast form, YouTube is where all this stuff lies. So really, thank y'all for supporting and continuing to support. And as this thing grows, we need you, and we appreciate you being there. All right, so LSU goes to the SEC championship. We also are going to get to Deion Sanders going to Colorado, because I think that this is going to be, if you're paying attention to social media, look around. There are so many people that are interested in the University of Colorado football now. I mean, they finished 12th in the Pac-12 this year, right? I mean, they're in the cellar of a league that is very much in flux, and Deion Sanders went and took on the challenge. And one thing is for certain here on day one of him being on the job, he is going to get players. He's going to get guys that go to Colorado. And by what he's done at Jackson State over the last couple of seasons, it looks like he'll turn that thing into a winner pretty quick. We'll wait and see, but he might have SEC presidents and athletics directors looking around saying, damn it, why didn't we? We had our chance.
Did we? Yeah.
We had our chance, but maybe this is what it takes to take that next step and him be at a big-time job. I don't know where it ends. I really look at Deion and the way that he addressed that room yesterday, and I thought to myself, he could be an NFL head coach in the next 4 years. I mean, think 4 years ago if I would have told you that Deion Sanders is going to be the head coach at Colorado 4 years from now. You'd have told me, get the hell out of here, right? All right, we'll get back to that. LSU goes to the SEC championship. Yes, absolutely. LSU goes to the SEC championship over the weekend, falls to Georgia, as Stetson Bennett and the Georgia offense was what I thought was most impressive on the day, as talking about the number one team in the country. 274 yards for Bennett, 4 touchdowns, as they defeat LSU 50-30 on the day. Let's be honest, a lot of the build-up last week, I don't think anybody was feeling overly confident about LSU. Did they have opportunities? Did they have chances? If they were healthy and right, did you feel good about them in the game? There were scenarios that stacked up that made sense where LSU could keep that game competitive. As kickoff started to close in and you started to learn that Jaden Daniels is really unhealthy, he's not right, and this is going to be a problem throughout the day for LSU, then you could start to see that it was slipping away. But early on, I don't know if LSU could have started that game any better as far as the way it started for them. Getting off the field on defense, giving the ball to your offense, and putting a drive together where you're gobbling up time, you're moving the ball down the field, you're getting all of your playmakers involved, and I mean you're really kind of showing this Georgia defense early in the game like it's going to be a day. It's going to be a long day. You know what I mean? Like you're going to have to be ready for 4 quarters of LSU's offense coming at you. And they get into the red area, they break down, they give up a sack, on comes the field goal unit, on comes special teams early in the game, and really and truly a unit that has made you feel as a fan. You can tell by the coaching staff and the way they look at the sideline when they show the sideline, when they put the special everybody's uneasy and has been all year long about the special teams taking the field, right? And really and truly, I mean, I'm not pouring on, I'm not piling on. It has been abysmal all season. So it's not as if, we're trying to say, look, I mean, the special teams are terrible. They've been bad, right? They've been bad. But this was the worst. I mean, Brian Polian and the special teams crew, they saved their worst for last. That was embarrassing on a national, just to be at LSU and for that to happen in an SEC title game, and clearly nobody knew what to do or what the rule is. And I heard Georgia speak about it. Look, and if you go back and watch the all 22 of it or the overhead view of it, there are some Georgia players that are running off the field as if they blocked the field goal and the play was over. So it's not as if they understood the rule completely. But one player that definitely did was Smith. I mean, the way that he hovered over the ball, and then I kind of dug into a whole Saturday night as far as like some post-game media of it. And there is some media of Kirby Smart talking about how they have taught that. There is teach tape that they have, a scenario that they had in their first season against Bama where they blocked the field goal and went past the line of scrimmage. It was not an extra point. It was a field goal, and everybody was confused. And Smart said, since that day, we've been teaching that moment. And it was clear when you were watching the all-22 overhead shot of that play that LSU had no idea. Allie Gay is the far right defensive end on that as where like the ball went, past the line of scrimmage. I mean, he shakes his head as the ball gets blocked and runs back towards the sideline. Like he never even considers to go and, mark the ball dead. Just go touch it. Or at least be prepared for somebody to scoop it up and tackle him. I mean, that was a track meet. I mean, like he just picked it up and ran a 70-yard dash. It was for the game's sake, for the sake of the game Saturday, I thought it was the biggest play of the game. Really. I mean, I thought if you're LSU, you've got Georgia kind of like thinking, man, we're taking some punches here early on. This stout defense that is the identity of the program is showing some holes here early against this LSU offense, against an unhealthy quarterback. You were kind of thinking, man, if they can patch this thing together, get a field goal here, get points, maybe, and then special teams disaster. That was a disaster. I mean, like, there's no other way to paint that scenario other than on the biggest stage of the season, in the opening drive of the game offensively. That was the bottom. That was the worst moment of the special team season. Say that out loud. I mean, they've had field goals blocked. They've fumbled punts. They've fumbled kickoffs. They have given up punt returns, given up kickoff. I mean, they've done it all. And on Saturday,
and then some.
In the last game of the year, it was their worst moment. And as Brian Kelly said, and I agree, look, man, I'm not somebody that puts it completely all on the coaches, like the players. Somebody out there is playing, you've been playing football for 10 years at least, 12 years. Somebody, has some football IQ to just go say, hey, don't let the ball get scooped up, right? But all in all, that's a coaching moment. I mean, like, as a coach, you have to have those guys prepared for, hey, fellas, if we ever get a field goal blocked and it goes past the line of scrimmage, we got to make sure and kill that ball. Always. Like, don't ever let that thing get scooped up and, it turn into a scenario where somebody could do that, or you let somebody lateral it back and forth. Just go kill the ball. But it was, after you give up that play, which I thought was the biggest play of the game, you get the ball back and you give up one of the most freakish plays that the game can offer. I mean, the ball is not supposed to bounce off of a helmet into the air, perfectly for somebody to catch it. I mean, it just, how many football games have you watched in your life? I'm sure countless. Me the same. I've never seen that play. I've never seen the play, the ball in the heat of the moment take a bounce off of a kid's helmet, off the ground, and just bounce right back up into somebody's hand. Maybe you've seen it. I have not. But on a day like that, where you're playing a team that's, the roster is better than yours, you're not the better team, you can't have plays where you give up a special teams, scoop and score, and then you've got this just freakish play. So, I mean, that was... It may not have been the next drive. It may have been a drive, two drives after that, because I believe the next drive was Kayshawn's touchdown, which, by the way, good God, how good did Kayshawn look on that? I mean, that is Georgia's defense that he is just stepping through. I mean, running away from. That was something we've all been waiting on. That was beautiful to see. I think, he's definitely not had the junior season that he wanted, that we wanted, that anybody following the program knows he could have had. But that was the glimpse for sure of, he's a Ferrari, man. He's a rare tool in college football. And, I think that, we'll always look back on his junior season and say just kind of where'd it go? But I think that he is going to have a phenomenal NFL career. I really do. I think that, if you can do that on an SEC field where you could just catch a simple crossing route, make one guy miss, drop it into fifth gear, and run away from everybody, there's just not a lot of people. The people that can do that make a lot of money. And, I hope that happens to him. And then, the series later, it bounces off of Besh's helmet. And like I said, man, you may have seen that play. And I'm not here to say that I've seen more football than you. There's probably a lot of people in this audience that have seen a lot more football than I have. I've watched a lot of football, and I've never seen that. I've just never seen that type of play. And when that stuff happens against, a superior team, it starts to break your will. It starts to break your morale. But one thing I will say about this LSU team, and that's a little bit of the negative, of kind of what happened. One thing that I will say as a positive is something that we have said about LSU since game one. And remember, our first hour every Monday morning is brought to you by Bayou Carlin Oyster Company, located in Acadiana down there. And great for holidays, tailgates, BayouCarlinOysterCode.com online. Use the promo code Jordy and save yourself 20%. One thing that we've said about LSU all season long, since game one, back in August versus Florida State, is that they're a four-quarter team, man. They will bust your head for 4 quarters. They got no quit in them. They got no give up in them. They will fight. And one thing that team did was they had opportunities to shut it down, to really just kind of let the clock, evaporate in front of their face, and just get on the bus, get on the plane, get back home. They didn't do that, man. They sat around and fought, kicked, and competed against a Georgia team that I think they gave some really good film to Ohio State in the potential national championship matchup if they can get past the Buckeyes. I mean, for as, ironclad as we thought that Georgia defense was, I thought LSU poked some holes in it. And before Nussmeier got in. So, while Georgia is, I think, the clear cut they have the best roster in football. I think that's, after watching a lot of football over the past couple of weeks and month, you see TCU, you've seen Ohio State, you've seen Michigan. I think Michigan, that would be a really good matchup. That would be a really good game of Georgia-Michigan. But I think that Georgia is not as, invincible as we once thought. One thing I will say about Georgia that I was so surprised and shocked by was how much LSU lives in their head, was how much that 2019 team, and I guess the SEC shellacking that Burrow and the boys put on them back in the Georgia Dome or back in the Mercedes-Benz Dome in Atlanta, I guess what that did to that program, I mean, I had no idea that they obsessed over LSU like that. I mean, doing like the get the gat in the locker room afterwards, going for 2 up. I mean, like that 2-point conversion. I thought you were better than that, Kirby. I really did. I didn't think that you would kind of lower yourself to, I mean, you really want to give LSU and Brian Kelly bulletin board material? I mean, if you do, fine. But, I mean, I just thought that he was going to run that thing and, it was kind of all about Georgia, right? Where it was, hey, we just handle us. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Don't worry about what's happened to us in the past, or at least don't ever show that outwardly. We can talk about it inside the locker room. We can talk about it inside the complex, and we can pin stuff up on the wall, and we can, make sure that what motivates us is good. But, I mean, to see the way that LSU still sits in Georgia's head gave me a good feeling about the next couple of years. I mean, if that's the dragon you got to slay, that's the boogeyman. I mean, Georgia's the new Bama, right? Which, by the way, watching Nick Saban beg on Fox was
what the show.
That was unreal. I mean, how many showers did Saban have to take after that? I mean, he felt like a whore. I mean, like
Yes.
it felt like walking through the quarter at like 4 a.m.
I got no money.
Like, just, I mean, like,
Suck your dick for a dollar.
whatever. I mean, like, it was just like, what is happening with Saban, man? I thought I would never see the day of him, like,
Desperate.
groveling. Like, he was desperate. He was resorting to, we would be the favorite against these. Like, Nick, you probably would, man, but you can't be here. You know what I mean? Like, you're not invited to this party. I'm sorry. I know that you've been the host of this. You have been the center of attention at this party for many years. This particular year, we're not gonna have to.
Go to the in-laws.
We can't have you here, man. You can't.
Don't you think that he did that because he saw LSU Georgia? Like, he saw everybody play out. Like, I know he did it during the TCU game, but probably even after that, he was like, "Let me into the party. I can win.
Oh, no doubt. Well,
I can win this whole thing."
And then when he saw Georgia, he was probably like, "Oh my God!"
That's what I'm saying. Like, he saw TCU, and what's their quarterback's name? Max
Duggan.
He almost died on the field.
Yeah, he did. I thought he was dead.
He give your all for TCU today, and I think they get into the playoff, and deservedly so, because you see it where the committee put their eyeballs, make it close, make it competitive, and TCU, even with the loss, made it so that you could ignore them. They were too good to ignore. At least they're going to make it fun.
Right.
Like,
No,
you're
I
gonna
agree.
give me good TV,
watching that game on Saturday, I was thinking, maybe they're not going to keep him out. You know, like, this is they've
1 yard
walked
line.
They've walked this tightrope all year long.
You're
man.
gonna get
At
bit.
some point, you gotta fall, right?
the
I
toad.
mean, like, goodness gracious, but
And then you have Saban on right after, and he's just
on Fox.
please.
I mean,
But-
Reggie Bush was like, "That was an honor."
Yeah.
He's like, "I've never. That was so cool. I think that was an. I mean, like,
Did you see-
even the Fox crew was like, "How the hell did we
get
pull
him?
that off?"
Did you see Nick Saban's face when Herb went on the screen? He just started ear to ear. He's like, "What's up, buddy?" And it's like, "No."
How's your heart?
Yeah, Old Boys Club.
Right.
Oh, Herb, I remember you. What's up?
Yeah. Are you gonna come back?
You have a question? All right.
But I mean, the Final Four is without Bama. So you've got Georgia 1, Michigan 2, TCU 3, and Ohio State 4. So Ohio State gets in. You've got the Ohio State-Georgia matchup, which I think is on paper, is a phenomenal matchup. And then, for the committee's sake, I think that they looked at this potential rematch of a Ohio State-Michigan game, which, is going to pull massive numbers no matter what, right? Like, I mean, it's going to be just a enormous number if you can get it. I think you're kind of playing with house money in the sense of Georgia and Ohio State is a very intriguing matchup. I think that the college football world will be tuned in to that game. TCU has done enough to create interest around it where I don't think the number will plummet for the other game of TCU and Michigan. But, if potentially you could, if Georgia could be upset, which at this point I don't think it would be a massive upset. I think the point spread's 6.5, Ohio State.
Hold on, I'm looking at it right now, actually.
But if Ohio State's able to beat
6.5.
if Ohio State's able to beat Georgia, which, look, on a perfect day, Ohio State's got the roster. I mean, and if they get Marvin Harrison back and Jigba back, the two wide receivers, I mean, you saw on Saturday what Malik Neighbors, Jeray Jenkins, and Kayshon Boutte can do. Three really solid wide receivers, three potential pro wide receivers. Who's got a better wide receiver room than Ohio State?
And now you're playing for something.
Right. And I mean, and it's one game. That's the scariest scenario about it all. Is that, you look at this thing and you're like, you play a conference, you play a conference. Yeah, I mean, Georgia's probably the better team at the end of the day. You give them one game and you got a healthy roster on both sides, I would say that the most comparable roster to Georgia's in college football would probably be Ohio State. If it's not Bama, it's Ohio State, right? I mean, it's just as far as the rosters go, not the outcome, not the records, not the season, just man for man. Ohio State, when fully healthy, I mean, hell, LSU matched up with Georgia.
That's what I was about to say, Coach. That you put them on the same field after what I just saw, like everything that you laid out was kind of how we're aligned on that part. Where look at Dre Jenkins, look at Malik Neighbors, look at Brian Thomas. Ohio State has all that in spades, and probably with a quarterback that if you combine Garrett Nussmeier and Jade Daniels, that's what they got with Caleb Stroud. That's going to be a better game than people.
Oh no, it's going to be a good game.
6.5 is worth probably by a point, gets you to 7.5, but that's touchable. Like we saw Georgia play at the beginning of the year. We're like, all right, that's the best team in the country. The wheels are starting to
wobble a little bit. Yeah.
Exactly. As you continue down the Oregon Trail, you might be losing a spoke or two here.
Now, I was impressed with their offense. Their offensive line is stacked. Their 2 tackles are first rounders.
And there are 2 defensive tackles also.
Absolutely. But, I mean, just offensively first. I mean, Cedric Van Granger, their center from Warren Easton out of New Orleans, I mean, he's a pro. Their 2 tackles are pros. I mean, the 2 tight ends are just – Darnell Washington, when he, as a blocker, is terrifying.
A cheat code.
I mean, I mean, sometimes when they just want to get the edge, he'll just pin 2 people. You know, I mean, like he's just a mammoth, bro. I mean, he's just a different type of athlete. And, you know, Brock Bowers is probably the best player on their team.
Gronk.
Yeah, I mean,
he reminded me of.
He's such a difficult match. I mean, asking, you know, Greg Brooks to come up and that's a tough task, man.
But didn't you think when you saw Georgia's offense that what are they doing? Why weren't they running the ball? Like, you could have pounded LSU into the ground and it kind of ended the thing, and they kept going back to the pass game. They put a lot on Stetson Bennett.
I think that
and he played great, but it was just like, this game should be over. Why do y'all keep giving LSU like?
I think they wanted to like
work on some stuff.
And I think they were like trying to
figure it out.
No, pound I think they were like trying to embarrass LSU, like 2-point conversion, throw the ball on them. Like, you know, Joe Burrow. Mm-hmm. I had no idea how much 2019. I mean, they were doing get the gat in the locker room after the win Saturday night. It's like, fella, that was 3 years ago. You're on the top of the mountain. You're the king of the sport. You're still thinking about the SEC title game of 2019?
And they're probably thinking a little bit about 2018. Kirby was 0-2 against LSU since he took the job.
Whatever it is, man, it made me feel
personal.
very, very good.
It
about
was
having Brian.
Orgeron-esque.
It was very Orgeron-esque. It was very petty. It was very, beat my chest. It was very, you want to fight? Like, no, man, you just beat us. What do you mean? Like, on to the next one, man. You know, like
we'll see you again.
Absolutely. If you're Brian Kelly, if you're LSU, and I thought, you know, Jacques asked Brian Kelly specifically about it afterwards, about Kirby going for 2. And I thought Kelly had a great response. He was like, look, man, it's not my responsibility to worry about how teams come at me. I got to stop that. We got to stop that. And, you know, if that's what they want to do, then that's fine by me. But you could hear the undertone of, we took note. We you know what I mean? We got an elephant memory. We're not going to forget. And if that's the game because they're all sitting in the same living room today. Mm-hmm. They're all making the same calls, the same text messages. They're all doing the same FaceTime calls with recruits, right? And don't think that, you know, LSU doesn't have a little message about what that was to people that may be curious. Now, look, man, Georgia's out there, you know, recruiting at the highest level. But if that's the standard of the sport now, that ain't Bama. You know what I mean? Like, that's different than what Bama felt untouchable when they got to the top of the mountain. Georgia feels very vulnerable up there. They feel very insecure. And if you're LSU and you feel like a team, like your stock's on the rise, which they are, you know, I mean, look, if that's the dragon you got to slay, sweet. Now, the Nuss bus. Nuss pulled the bus into Atlanta on Saturday night. Sure, it was phenomenal to see. And somebody who was early on very much a advocate for Garrett Nussmeier and thought that he was going to be the quarterback of the squad. Before, Daniels developed, and I think early on in this we said, I mean, look, Daniels is the quarterback for LSU behind an offensive line that was trying to work out some kinks and couldn't couldn't get a steady rotation or a steady, guys of starters each week. They needed somebody that was mobile, that could keep things alive. And, Jaden Daniels was that guy. And, he was the right quarterback, in my opinion, after, seeing Nussmeier on Saturday night. But it did give you a little bit of just kind of what if you would have played Nussmeier, and especially early on, right? And look, he stepped in on Saturday night.
So hard to talk about,
against a defense that is, again, very elite in college football. They were unprepared for what Nussmeier was doing, but just evaluating him, right? Like just evaluating him. His trigger is it's so it's
different.
It's so hot. You know what I mean? Like
so different.
I mean, it's just so attractive. You know what I mean? You're just like, oh God. I mean, like he lets the football go, and you're like, wow,
whoa,
wow. I mean, look at
wow, and then where's it going?
Yeah, and so is he.
Yeah,
to a little bit. I mean, he threw 3 passes that should have been pick sixes. You know what I mean? Like, hell, the first one he threw to Jure in the middle of the field, like 2 DBs were like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like,
it shocked him.
Yeah, absolutely, it shocked them because they didn't see it on
we
film.
We for this.
You know what I mean? Like, even Jaden Daniels, I mean, that was so different than what LSU was, and I mean, I think that the wide receivers, obviously would have been the biggest beneficiaries with their numbers and, you saw it. I mean, you saw the night they had, but look, I still believe that Jaden Daniels was the right quarterback for LSU. I don't, if you play Nussmeier, there's a lot of, spider webs that you're going to have to, clear out just because of, I mean, for as good as it was on Saturday night, sometimes the bad can feel like that as well. You know what I mean? Because he'll start just uncorking it, and, he trusts that arm, which, he should. And, I mean, think about how that thing terrorized high school football. You know what I mean? Like, he was playing at a big-time program in Texas. And, I mean, that athleticism, that arm strength, I mean, he was a highlight reel. And Saturday night was a perfect opportunity for him. I mean, just, hey, man, you got nothing to lose. You're down. You got to throw the ball around. You know what I mean? You got to make plays. And that's exactly who he is, right? Like, I mean, like, he needs some steering. He needs some coaching. He needs some guys to, get the kinks out for sure. But, I mean, as far as just the skill set goes, that release reminds me of very much of Jarrett Lee, where he comes off that back foot and the ball is just here, and before you know it, man, I mean, it is zipped to wherever he wants it to go. And sometimes, he has no idea where it's going. But, as we've said, with all of these commitments that have come in on the quarterback spot, from Walker Howard, who's now on campus, to Ricky Collins, who's coming in a couple of weeks, to Colin Hurley, who's a beast over in Florida. I mean, this is the golden age of LSU quarterbacks, or at least in my lifespan of covering the program and being a fan of the program that, goes 30 years, 35 years. I can't remember a quarterback room that's going to feel and look like what it potentially could next fall. I don't know, man. People are asking, is Nussmeier transferring? Is he gone? You're not going to keep them all. And I know they're in love with Walker Howard. And I know there's potential of Jaden Daniels coming back. So saying that out loud with, that type of scenario, it feels like he would be the odd man out at this point. So maybe that was, fantastic film to put down before the transfer portal opens up today. I mean, I guarantee you there are people around the country wondering Is Nussmeier going in?
Talk to his daddy.
So, I don't want to overreact to Nuss. I thought it was fun to watch him get out there and zip the ball around to just kind of show off who he is and the arm strength and all of his potential.
And I think, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but I think Caskey put it probably perfectly. Where it's like he's playing in a zero pressure spot. Like he gets to go out and audition essentially for either whether it be LSU or any team in the portal. But that's what he got to do. He got to go play free. And I don't want people to get too reactionary to what Nussmeier did, because when you look at it in totality, it was a zero-sum game. He scored 2 touchdowns, but also gave up 2 turnovers. Like, that's who he is right now. And while it was exciting to watch, and it's kind of the version of the LSU offense you kind of always imagined a little bit with getting the ball to the playmakers and how it just popped. But in the same vein, he turned the ball over twice. Yeah. And, so that's who he is. And that's why Jaden Daniels is your incumbent starter if he comes back, because he won you the football game. Like, that's what Jaden does. It doesn't look as sexy, but where are we? SEC championship. Why? JD5.
Yeah. No, exactly, man. I think that it is.
But don't think I wasn't turned on.
By Nuss?
I saw her flirting at the other side of the bar, but
for sure.
I can't go over there.
No doubt.
Still
look great.
She's toxic.
Still look great.
But she's going to drive my car into a ditch.
No doubt.
We got to go.
Yeah. So it will be interesting to see what happens with Nussmeier. I do expect, there to be some type of reaction here for what's going on with the quarterbacks. And like we said, Jaden Daniels potentially could come back. It feels like at this point he will come back. There's been so much talk of Walker Howard by the coaches of, they really, really like him and really potentially think that there is, a lot of the future of this program is going to be built around him. And then you've got incoming guys that can play. I mean, all these guys are Elite 11 nationally prominent quarterbacks, whether it's Ricky Collins or, a guy like Colin Hurley out of Florida who continues to develop. I mean, a very young player, but still, his time will be here before you know it. And you say it out loud, and Garrett Nussmeier, who's been there and has been loyal to LSU, was very much, a mouthpiece for his recruiting class and someone that was, almost considered the glue, right, of keeping it together. And that was like Kayshawn and Mason Smith and, all of those guys, the sophomore class at LSU. So, he's been great to the program and to the university. Whatever he decides to do, I think we can all agree, you got to support him, right? You got to support the individual he's given everything to the program that he can. If he decides that he wants to go play somewhere and it gives him a better chance to do it somewhere else, I would say, man, go get it. And every time I watch you play, I'm pulling for you.
Unless it's in the SEC.
Which it probably will be.
I think so, too.
You know what I mean? Like it's and that's what football is going to become very much here in the next couple of years. Is you're going to see guys playing on different sidelines each week. There's going to be a lot of Eli Ricks. There's going to be a lot of guys that play at LSU and go to Alabama.
Ipso facto.
Right. And vice versa.
Yeah.
I think that there's going to be – it's just too easy to happen.
Good.
Yeah, there's going to be guys that are at Texas A&M that could play at LSU.
Max Johnson.
Or, a cornerback maybe.
But do you think that, to continue on the quarterback thing just for one more second, do you think it's another scenario in which it was last year where Nussmeier wants to be at LSU?
Yes.
It's a little bit of Miles Brennan in terms of this is the school I wanted to go to. I've always wanted to play here. Give me a chance to compete in the spring, and then I'll make my decision after you name a starter and I'll hit the portal.
Possibly.
Because I think he doesn't want to go anywhere else.
Well, he's always wanted to be here.
Yes.
Right? And, he's a coach's son. I'm sure there's a lot of emphasis on, finishing something you start and sticking with your decision. But in today's college football world, where the opportunity to play at other high, we saw, DJU from Clemson.
That's what I would call him too.
Yeah. Ungagale.
Ukulele?
I mean, he put his name into the transfer portal after Klubnik. You know, they went to him. Yeah, he did. He did.
Well,
but I mean, that's been kind of. It looks like Dabo's just trying to. He's been trying to protect him. Mm-hmm. You know, what I mean, he's been trying to throw him out there and play him and stick with him, but
he gave him every opportunity.
He did, and at some point, the better player took the spot over, and Klubnik's he's a better player.
He looks different.
Yeah, he does.
And for Jaden Daniels, we kind of talked a little bit about this on Friday, but don't you think that it was on Mic'd Up where Jared Mitchell was like, this will force him to be a passer. You'll see what you have in Jaden Daniels when he can't use his legs. And I think what you saw is something you could certainly build on. Like, the way that he threw the football and when he knew he had to, it looked good. Like, obviously, Nussmeier's going to get the headlines because it looked totally different. But Jaden Daniels being forced into that role, I wasn't upset at all with how he was playing. LSU's in that game if the ball doesn't bounce 2 different ways. Like, a rule that I really don't – even Caskey – like, you saw Georgia's special teams coach going, don't touch it.
Yeah.
Don't touch it. He's like, okay, go, 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 go.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like everybody in the room was kind of going, what's happening right now?
Yeah.
Even Caskey was like, I don't know if you can do that. But he's like, you have to play to the whistle. Like, that's all I would like,
right.
That's where it falls on coaching if you're LSU. It's like, go get the foot. Don't let this don't run to the sidelines. Like, if you haven't heard anything, the ball is the ball that is the game.
Don't bail.
Don't bail. But that was a bizarre scenario, which you gift the number 1 team in the country 7 points. You score on a Keyshawn play that's electric, and then you have a ball bounce off a helmet into Georgia's hands. It's like LSU needed those bounces their way, not the opposite. And you still saw LSU fight and play well, and they should be a problem going forward. And I think that's why Kirby kind of wanted to kick them while they were down a little bit. Like, this might be my best chance I got to embarrass them.
Yeah, I thought, but, you know, I mean, we've seen Kirby do some stuff where you're like, wow. I mean, remember when he tweeted out the picture of Saban's recruiting board? Like, right when he got the Georgia right when he got the Georgia job? I mean, everybody was like, whoa.
He's got a little Lane in him.
He does. He's got but it's a little bit more spiteful than Lane.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I mean, Lane's a character. You know, I mean, when Kirby drops it, it's like, oof.
It's like Kirby's still fighting like that he belongs. Mm-hmm. It's like, Kirby, you're
the king of the mountain.
You haven't lost in 2 calendar years. Like, stop. I
mean, you're letting a team in 2019 live in the program's head like this? I mean, if I saw LSU responding to a game 4 years ago, 3 years ago, as the reigning national champs and had just won the SEC title, I would be thinking, the hell's going on? Like, you're so much better. Yeah, right. Like, I mean, you're talking to, I mean, you've got a natty and a natty appearance in the meantime. You know, like, I mean, like that.
We're fighting for air over
here. I mean, like, LSU's trying, they're trying to get back to relevancy.
Yeah, the wide receiver played quarterback.
And you're trying to kick them while they're down over a 2019 game. I just thought that was very, very surprised. I thought that was very petty. I thought that Georgia would be above that. But as a competitor in the Southeastern Conference, if that's the standard, if that's the mental standard of the league right now at the top, LSU's in great shape.
Like who we got?
LSU's in great shape. I'm telling you. Because mentally, Brian Kelly is so much more precise than Kirby Smart is. You can just tell by the way they answer the question and the way that they run their programs. I mean, Kelly knew what that 2-point conversion meant. And even Kirby's answer, we believed it was the analytic. No, you didn't.
That was a dick grab.
No, you didn't. And that's Kirby. Come on, man. If you're going to be this guy, be that guy 24 hours. You know what I mean? Like, if you go and let him play, get the gat and put that stuff all over social media and you're going to go for 2 when you're up 3 scores and you're going to be that guy, well, then when you get to the podium afterwards, tell him why you did it. The analytics said so. What card is that? Show us that sheet. What what card says that you go for 2 here?
And not only good with the wide receiver reverse
right, and
pass.
you're running a double reverse to the tight end? I mean, come on, Kirby. I mean, if you want to be that guy, then man, be that guy. But if that is the standard of the SEC right now, bro, I didn't know. I mean, remember what I was saying last week? I mean, I was in love with Kirby Smart. Mm-hmm. I mean, Kirby Smart's stock for me took a real big hit on Saturday watching that. I just can't believe he would let his program portray that. That would be like, you know, like Apple, you know, or Google. I mean, like, take the biggest business in the world. Take the NFL. You know what I mean? Somebody that runs at a different level and them being, like, responsive to something that happened 3 years ago. I mean, like, be like, huh? You're a machine. Whatever you touch prints money. Whatever you do right now in college football wins championships. Yeah, that's good. Like I said, man. All right. Let's set sail with BK. I mean, if you're LSU, like, oh, okay, sweet.
That's what it looks like?
All right.
All right.
That's good to know. Bayou Carlin Oyster Company. Remember, online, BayouCarlinOysterCo.com is where you can find our friends over there. They do the shucking, you do the grilling over at Bayou Carlin Oyster Co. They have online orders that you can access, and if you use the promo code Jordy, just use that promo code Jordy, you'll save yourself 20% over at our friends at Bayou Carlin Oyster Co. They bring you our entire first hour every Monday where we react to the college football games, the weekend, what went on, obviously, with what the shuck this morning. There is a lot to get to. There's a little bit on LSU, a little bit more to get to. How about Tulane, man? Tulane finishes the season 16th in the country, one spot ahead of LSU. If you live in New Orleans, if you have someone around you that is a Tulane fan, if you know anyone that went to Tulane, cheers for the Wave, and is in your text group or has access to your text messages, I guarantee you have heard that. I know I have a lot. And that's how the next year feels like it's going to be between LSU and Tulane. I wish they would have put them in a bowl together. I really do. I wish they would. And that was been my response the whole time. And look, I'm not sitting here saying I wish they'd have put them in a bowl together so LSU would have kicked their teeth in at all. I'm just saying, like, rather than having to deal with the next year of these yats in my ear and in my text chains, I wish they would have just teed it up at the Cotton Bowl and played one another. But instead, LSU's going to Orlando.
Again.
To go play Purdue. Are you going? I'm not.
No.
I mean, put it on the poll.
You know who's fighting? You know who's punching air right now?
Brody.
No, UL.
The Riders.
Well, no, UL. Because this is what they've always wanted, and Tulane just sat at the seat in front of them. And they're like, oh, you've been fighting to be where LSU is, you know, like little brother is what kind of it feels like always with UL. Tulane just jumped ahead of them in the aisle. Like, I'm going to stand up first on the airplane. And it's like, oh, now LSU actually is more interested in playing Tulane than UL at this moment, right? Like, after you lose Billy Napier, like, they've lost all their steam.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it feels like the shine is off.
And Tulane is just like, oh, here.
Yeah.
I love Willie
Save
Fritz.
their coach.
I love Willie.
Willie. I love him.
We need to get him on.
I would love to. Hey, Jordy, how you doing, bud? He's the best, though. I mean, he's
embodies
awesome,
it.
Dude. Yeah, he does. I'm so glad he stayed in New Orleans.
Me too.
I really am. I love that Tulane's good.
Me too.
You know, I mean, I really do. They're going to beat USC. I had this, like, Caleb Williams is not going to play.
You mean Oklahoma?
Exactly, but Caleb Williams is not going to play. He did something to his hamstring, bro. He's messed up.
Warrior.
And, you know, he's like looking at the Cotton Bowl. He's thinking, what do we get if we win? Nothing, Caleb. Sweet. I will be beginning my offseason today. Whoever the backup quarterback is at SC, go have a day, bro.
Have fun.
Yeah.
Pitch
go have fun, man. But, I mean, like, this is a great setup for Tulane. I mean, it really is. It feels great.
Because honestly, if you look at that game after you watch USC-Utah, like, USC is fun to watch, right? But when it gets down to it, Utah bodies them year after year after year because they're soft.
No, USC is going to be Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I mean, they are trending.
You just saw it.
They're trending towards Oklahoma, and here they are in year one of Lincoln's stint, and they are Oklahoma. I mean, who is the best comparison for USC right now? High-flying offense, big-time quarterback, can't tackle anybody.
Don't want to tackle anybody.
No, don't want to tackle anybody.
And guess who does? Tulane. Wants to come in there and punch them in the
This is
teeth.
Tulane's Super
Swan
Bowl.
song.
I mean, like, could you imagine what the graphics are going to look like with a Cotton Bowl ring versus USC? I mean, like, with USC on the same field as Tulane and them win that game.
And USC had everything to play for and lost it. Now they're, like, just like you said, like, what do I care about this bowl?
Man,
like, we were in the playoff 48 hours ago.
About the Cotton Bowl?
And now Tulane's kind of like, we're up next. And it's like, well, Tulane, you're probably not. But talk about all-time uniform matchup.
Oh, beautiful uniforms. Beautiful uniforms. And look, that scene at Ullman on Saturday after Willie Fritz and Tulane captured that was the first American Athletic Conference championship for the Wave that the program has received. They get that on Saturday. I mean, that was a that was a picturesque. I mean, like that was a beautiful scene on Saturday to see
Russell Wilson.
30,000 at Ullman. Everybody's like storming the field.
Hammered.
I mean, it looked like disco night at the White Sox game.
Dollar beer night.
What was it, Comiskey in like 79 where disco night turned into like a riot?
It's like,
They were ripping the bases up. I mean, like
you think this is out of hand? Like, yeah.
Yes, there's fires burning in center field, bro. We've got to clear the
We can't
stadium.
even play the game.
Right? They're stealing the
We're
bases.
setting records on fire. We're blowing them up. We had demolitions.
I mean, like they showed an overhead of Ullman. There's like smoke coming out of piles. There's music playing. People are taking their clothes off.
It's New Orleans, baby.
Hell yeah, baby! It's a big easy.
And if you're an announcer, you're like, oh, this is what it's supposed to look
Cut,
like.
cut, cut! Get out of there! Get out of there!
Somebody help.
Is she dead?
Yeah. And they're like, no, this is
No, hell no. She's great.
Monegal came early.
Yeah, right.
This is what it looks like.
I mean, it was a hell of a scene, man. Good for them, though, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. And look, I think that Texas, that Cotton Bowl is going to be it's going to be fun to watch. And like you said, I mean, aesthetically, on the eyes, football pornography.
Absolutely. I mean, you think they go baby blues against the Reds?
So many
A
options.
little USC,
So many
UCLA
options.
feel.
I would love to see the traditional USCs with the red tops, obviously the yellow bottom. And I'd love to see Tulane with a little bit more of their white. Look at Willie.
I know.
Look at Willie.
This is the move. This is what changed. This is what changed their years. Every team that isn't that good needs one thing. Where you're like, oh, we got a little momentum. Like our baseball team that gets hot in the playoffs, they always have something. And Willie getting to do the stage dive after every win is absolutely what they play for now.
No, it is, man. It's they got it going on, bro. I mean, like Tulane's got it moving in the right direction, and they're steamrolling right now. So shout out to the Wave, and remember, daily we are brought to you by our friends over at RMB Builders. Rhett Bourgeois and the crew. RMB Builders brings back all of our on-demand stuff. So if you missed the first hour, which is brought to you by Bayou Carlin Oyster Company here on Monday morning, you can always check that out. Look at Willie. Look at that, dude. That is awesome.
I mean, he could die right now and he wouldn't be happier.
Awesome. Look at that scene, man. Good for Tulane.
Absolutely.
Daily, we're brought to you by RMB. Make sure you hit them on Instagram if you're out there and you are looking for some projects or you're looking to do an addition here around the holidays, some reconstruction going into 2023, or you're ready to build that dream home. RMB Builders can help you out. Check out their Instagram. All of the projects are there. A lot of the social media, all the stuff that they have going on. RMB-builders.com. RMB-builders.com. All right, we got a busy second hour coming up. We're looking forward to it. We're going to talk to Jake Crain, and we'll get into more of the national stuff here of college football. We mentioned LSU going to the Citrus Bowl where they will play Purdue. What's that, on January 2nd? I believe is the kickoff.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
Yeah, January 2nd, 1 p.m.
Okay.
Cheese at Citrus Bowl. So, Brian Kelly, watch yourself now. If you win, you will get dumped with a bowl of
Cheez-Its.
Cheez-Its, which I feel like he will hate.
Yeah.
It's almost like, don't do that to me. He wouldn't wear mayo, that's for sure. Shane Beamer almost died at the Duke's Mayo Bowl last year. He took one to the back of the head.
Gross.
But I don't think you can put it on Napoleon.
Yeah. If he's there, huh? I mean,
he'll
lot of
be
time
the
for
first
movement
one
here.
to let you know.
right. That was so bad. That special teams blunder on Saturday. That was,
Can't happen.
That was a Follies film. I mean, like that was tough. All right. Well, Jake Crane's coming up here at about 8:05.
You think everybody's laughing at LSU on that
Absolutely.
Part? Like, what do you
I gotta. You know who I was thinking about in the moment is like special teams coordinators at like D2, D3, lower P5, Group of 5 schools, looking at that, thinking like, look at the LSU special teams job.
And I can't get a job.
I mean, like, this guy's making X amount, and I'm sitting over here, got my guys coached up, knowing that if I ever got the LSU gig, I'd sprint through a cement wall for it.
And kick it out the back?
And they can't get it right from the – I mean, the LSU special teams department has haunted them from literally the opening game of the season to the last game. Think about it. I mean, have you ever seen one unit struggle? Even during Les Miles' offensive days, you'd have Jordan Jefferson break out for a game where, he'd hit Reuben Randall across the middle streaking for a touchdown. Every now and again, a squirrel would find a nut in Les's offense. No pun intended, Les. Chill out, buddy.
We talk about.
Yeah. What? Somebody say something? Go back to bed, old man. But it was to see how his special teams has just been abysmal, start to finish. Look, man, I don't want to pile on. We all saw it. It's terrible. Jake Crain will be here at about 8:10 this morning. We're going to talk more, like we said, about the national landscape. We know the Final Four. A couple of good matchups here, man. I think some intriguing matchups. And I feel good for TCU. I think that this brings a little bit of credibility to the committee, because I thought for certain when TCU fell on Saturday that they were going to get Alabama in there. You got Saban groveling on competitive networks. And ultimately, you know what Saban's doing is he's at halftime of the game. And so you know what the committee's doing on Saturday. This is finally the first Saturday all season long where the committee can really sit in one room and watch every game. Right? It's literally impossible to watch every game. I don't care how many people you got. For everybody to see every play with the amount of football that they play during the regular season, and you got a group of 12 people trying to oversee this stuff. But come championship Saturday, where, all the regular season games are done, and you dwindle it down to just championship games where, you're watching 4 games, essentially. And the Pac-12s is on Friday night. You've got everybody in the room together sitting there watching nothing but football. So Saban knows that. And Saban's, says, get me on every network of every halftime, because I know all these suits are sitting in a closed-door room wherever they are this weekend, and I'm talking directly to them. And if there is a committee that could be swayed by one person, like if you were to say, hey, we got to sway one person in that 12-man committee, who should we put up there in college football? Is there a bigger voice or a more intimidating figure to throw up on the screen at halftime and bark at these suits than Nick Saban? And that's ultimately what Saban did. I think that he got in he was like, put me on at halftime of that Big 12 game.
How many calls do you think you made to get there?
2. Not
I know,
many.
But for the first time, they're
not many. He probably called Jimmy Sexton,
Mm-hmm.
and he probably called whoever he knew within the media that he trusts the most. It looks like him and Tom Rinaldi have a good relationship. He probably called Rinaldi and said, Fox, like, you're on Fox, I want to go on Fox. And Rinaldi's probably like, yo, the big whale wants to swim on our waters. What do we do? And everybody's like, whatever we had planned, screw it. Go to Saban. How about his setup?
That's what I was about to say. He's ready for the video call.
He looked like the Dark Emperor. He had the crimson jacket on. He's got the back glow of the championship rings behind his head. And he's sitting there saying on national television and using point spreads to his advantage. Nick, I never thought I'd see the day. I never thought that I would see the day of Saban in the crimson jacket, which is the most powerful piece of attire that Saban wears. He knows that if he's got to make a statement in a room full of boosters or a room full of recruits, let me bust this bad boy out. Or if I need to go try and bully the 12-man committee, the playoff committee, right, give me a list.
Who am I talking to?
Who's Boo Corrigan?
I'll get you fired.
I'm from West Virginia, Boo. So let me tell you how business is going to run. Look at Nikki.
In the back. Dude, when he puts on the blazer, it's go time.
It's power, bro.
It's time.
It's power broker time.
Yeah, this is my weekend attire.
I'm the most powerful man in the sport. Let me show you in a jacket.
Yeah, this is my lingerie. It's your anniversary.
Second hour coming your way. Remember, we're brought to you daily by Go Chevrolet. And the first hour every single Monday is brought to you by our friends over at Bayou Carlin Oyster Company. Holiday season is here. If you're hosting, get in touch with our friends over at Bayou Carlin Oyster Company. Easiest way to do it is just log online. BayouCarlinOysterCo.com. Use the promo code Jordy online and save yourself 20%. We'll be back with the second hour. We'll dive back into the college football discussion. Jake Crain will be here at 8:10 this morning. And then Neil Weiner. from the Dunham Tigers. Dunham stamps their ticket to the Dome first time. Friday night was an incredible atmosphere out at Dunham with a win over University High. We'll talk to Neil about the journey and about this time of year in high school football here in Louisiana and what it feels like to still be playing. All of that and more coming at you in the second hour. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the share button. Make sure you hit the comment button. If you have not already subscribed to the Jordy Culotta Show channel, please make sure and do that before you get out of here. And like we said, it is a busy, busy day of programming here. We will have Chopping It Up with Roger Cador coming your way at 10 o'clock. Make sure you're following that show on YouTube. At 1 o'clock today, we will debut the Will Wade podcast, as Wade will debut his podcast. We'll break down some film that Wade has sent us on a couple of sideline out of bounds that he wants to break down, and we'll talk about the just the early days here of college and NBA basketball. Don't look now, but I don't want to get into it, but the Pelicans are second in the West. And we'll talk a little bit about the Pels. I know it's December. It's very, very early. A lot of basketball left to play, but nice start to the season for Willie Green, Zion, and the crew.
Put them together.
Yeah. We'll talk to so we got Will Wade podcast, 1 o'clock. Out of my league, Nick Diaz will debut his podcast at 3 p.m. this afternoon, which will be some live programming and more reaction to LSU and what should be having some more news on the transfer portal. By that time, you should have a lot of updates on what's going on with the portal. And then at 6 o'clock tonight, regular schedule, mic'd up. Mikey Matuk and the crew will be there for their regular time slot at 6 p.m. All of those shows have YouTube channels. All of those shows have social media. All of those shows have direct lines and podcasts where you can keep up with us if you miss us. So make sure you are subscribed. Make sure you are liking, following, sharing all of our media if you don't mind. We're looking forward to it. It's a busy day here. And we'll be back. Second hour, brought to you by Go Chevrolet, coming at you here on the Jordy Culotta Show. Donaldsonville Glass and Body, the trusted name in frame, body, and automotive paint repair since 1977. They have served their customers for over 45 years. You can find them online at dgbauto.com or stop in and see them Railroad Avenue and Division Street out in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Look, they can help you with your insurance claims. They can make the repair process as stress-free as possible. I'm speaking from experience here. I've got numerous windshields, body repair, all done by Kenny and the crew over at Donaldsonville Glass and Body. They are, without question, the most well-equipped shop in the area. Stop in and see them today. Shop them online, dgbauto.com, or stop in and see the crew over in Division Street in Donaldsonville, Louisiana. Donaldsonville Glass and Body. Hey fellas, it's Jordy Culotta for my friends over at Men's Total Health. Guys, do you suffer from fatigue, decreased libido, erectile dysfunction, weight gain or loss of muscle mass, signs of depression, anxiety, hair loss, mental fog, general loss of interest? Then you might be suffering from low testosterone. Go see my friend Mike Roach and his great team over at Men's Total Health over in Metairie at menstotalhealth.net online. And stop in and see how they can change your life today. A simple shot and some knowledge from Mike Roach can get you back up, moving with your energy, get your sex drive back, build your muscle mass, make you feel young again. All online, menstotalhealth.net. Red Stick Sports, a local staple in Baton Rouge to all sports fans, was founded back in 1981 and has remained a family business for over 40 years. Today, they still have the great selection on the floor, but they're also a leader in custom apparel for businesses, sports teams, and other groups. Take it from us, everybody over here at FM Digital Media. They help us out with all of our apparel. Let them help you out today. Go ask for Cody over at Red Stick Sports. Check him out online at redsticksports.biz. I was embarrassed about my smile. Are you unhappy at yours? Do you not smile back at yourself? I called my friend, Dr. Spillers, over at Johnson Spillers. He fixed my smile, and now everywhere I go, people are complimenting it after the work that Dr. Spillers and the staff did to my mouth. They can do it to yours. Get in touch with them. JohnsonSpillers.com. 2 locations, one in Gonzales, one in Baton Rouge. Easy to find them, JohnsonSpillers.com. We love the crew over at Fresh Chef Kitchen. Chef Shane and his crew dropping off the meals every Monday here to FM Digital Media, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner. Me or the crew's going through our meals over at Fresh Chef Kitchen. Their weekly pre-order, freshly made meals, or you can walk into the cooler over there on Airline Highway. They have that fresh, same service over there at Fresh Chef Eats. FreshChefEats.com is where you can find them online. Fresh Chef Kitchen. Tell them you heard it right here on the Jordy Culotta Show. All right, we'll catch up with Jay Crain here coming up in a couple of minutes on the Jordy Culotta Show. Appreciate you being out there and starting your Monday here with us. Make sure and hit that like button, share button, and comment button. Remember to subscribe if you have not already done so. Busy day of programming like we've told you and reminded you about over here at FM Digital Media. We'll talk to Crain about the Final Four and, just on paper, right? We've talked a little bit about this one in Georgia at Ohio State. Early lines come out at 6.5. I believe the other one's at 4. Michigan? TCU, or was it at 9? I believe it might have been 9.
At Caesars have it up already. What game do you want?
Michigan TCU. We've got Georgia Ohio State at 6.5, 9.5.
And it feels like TCU threw their best punch.
Yeah,
which was a valiant effort to get into the playoff. That's what they needed to do. You lost by a half a yard. I don't know why they didn't put it in Max's hands again. He was ready to die for you. He was gladiator. Yeah. It looked like high school football.
It did. It felt like high school football.
He couldn't even celebrate. He's like, boys, I'm about to vomit.
Leave me alone. Yeah,
I'm about to I can't breathe. Which was awesome.
Michigan's. I think it feels like Michigan, Georgia, when you look at the Final Four and just kind of who's going to make it out, right? We mentioned the Michigan's, the Georgia Ohio State scenario. Ohio State, 1-game championship on the line. A healthy roster. I mean, if they can get Njigba, the wide receiver, and get Marvin Harrison back, I mean, that's a different matchup. That's a different team. And you saw Georgia, they're vulnerable with playmakers on the outside. I mean, Jeray Jenkins had a big night. Kayshawn Shine, Brian Thomas looked good out there. I mean, they were exposing that Georgia secondary. I mean, I don't think the safeties are as good. They're definitely not as good as last season's safeties. But, I mean, it's just, for as invincible as we felt Georgia has felt like all season long, I think that they have shown
LSU cut them.
They've shown some dents, absolutely. Yeah, LSU has cut them for sure.
What do you think the odds are for if they have the NCAA championship lines out for who's going to win the entire thing already, like throughout the playoff winners?
I would say Georgia would be the favorite.
Mm-hmm.
I would say Michigan would be second. Then Ohio State, then TCU.
Michigan plus 290 if you want it. Georgia at minus 135. So there's still the tough to get, almost not getting plus money on a team that you just saw kind of waver their way through an SEC championship. I know the score is not indicative of that, but that's the most points they've given up all year.
Yeah.
I guess Nuss kind of messes up the algorithm a little bit. We're like, what? I mean, you saw Brad Kellis. I was like, what do you do? What's happening over here? Like, this is what I was terrified of. I'm so uncomfortable.
Right.
Oh, God. Oh, no. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Oh, not again.
They've gotten themselves into, some, like, early season discussions. Like, you like, going into the bowl, you're like, who's going to play quarterback?
Who do you think will play for LSU?
I think.
Do you give Jaden just because of, what Nuss looked like? Do you just give him the bowl game and say, hey, go do it again?
Who knows what happens?
Because Jaden is not healthy. I mean, her valiant effort, but the picture of him getting picked up in the Georgia defensive lineman putting his number 1 in the air while he was holding him like a baby was a tough look.
That's a bad look. That's a bad
if
look.
LSU does it, you're like, this is the thumbnail.
Yeah. Oh, without question.
Instead, put him down.
If you're Georgia, you put that graphic on the wall in your locker room.
You put it out for the CFP playoff, like who's number 1.
Right. I mean, it's
on the newspaper.
It's a monumental moment for sure. That's one of those images that will live forever in Georgia football, ever.
Kurt, for sure.
For sure.
Stroking.
All right, so we got Jake Crain coming up here in a couple of minutes.
And you talk about Ohio State getting into the playoff. Who lost more sleep than Ryan Day.
Nobody.
I might lose my job.
No doubt. In a month?
Yeah, but because I'm in the playoff.
In a month?
I have to play Michigan, maybe? Like, that's not what – he doesn't want that stage of college football.
He needs a link. He needs a link.
I sent him one.
Okay. We're going to link up with Jake Crain here.
It's a Culotta Show video link. It's Jake Crain 12, right? I'm not gonna read the rest of it, but that's his email address. Same one we've always had.
Yeah. So you got the Final Four coming up, as we said, and those games are scheduled for New Year's Eve. Glendale, Arizona, 3 o'clock Central Time kickoff for Michigan and TCU. And then 7 o'clock that night, Georgia and Ohio State will kick off with a spot for the national championship on the line.
If it's Ohio State, Michigan, and the Natty, talk about flexing for them. I mean, I know we talk about expanded playoff a lot, and we're kind of all excited for it, but they got this one pretty much. You got every flavor you want, right? Like, this is the picturesque moment for what the playoff can look like with 4 teams, and they're not going to renege on making it, they're not going to go back on their word, obviously. You want the 12-team playoff, but they kind of got it right.
Yeah.
And
I think they did. I think they did, too. I think they actually gained a little
putting
credibility.
TCU.
Yeah,
Yes,
me too.
Me too.
I mean, because, that thing shook up on Saturday.
It was wild.
It shook up, man, and you wondered, like, are they going to – it's just
Don't
too
do
tempting.
it. I mean,
It's
Nick's right here.
tempting, and he's talking to you.
Reggie, what an honor.
Yeah.
He's not the president.
I mean, you should have come to LSU then, Reg.
Yeah, had the chance.
Oh, God.
Best high school highlight tape of all time.
If not the best, it's
How
top 3.
about
Marcel Brooks and Harold Perkins
well,
get kind of
Harold
lost in the moment.
Perkins' highlight on Huddle is 10 minutes long.
And all of them are highlights.
They're all touchdowns. Here he is. Oh, Beanie. We got
Yes.
Crain.
Why is he covering up the hair? The hair's beautiful. Freezing up there, huh? Good.
I'm cold.
Yes.
I'm cold.
Uh,
I don't like cold. Coached in Montana for a year.
Oof.
It was great until about October. That's all I'll say on that. But how y'all doing this morning?
Doing good. LSU falls, of course, and in the Citrus Bowl, barf. But
Again.
we will talk to that. We'll talk about that a little later. What was your reaction to Saturday night SEC title game, Georgia LSU?
Well, I was surprised at how well Jaden Daniels was throwing the ball early. When I saw the way he was throwing the ball, it really kind of gave me some hope that LSU would be able to score enough points to keep it close. But here's the thing, like when you're playing a team like Georgia doesn't need any help.
Mm-hmm.
And they caught a couple big breaks. I mean, that pick was a big break. But why can't LSU just do the simple stuff on special teams, right? How do you not know that that's a live ball? Like we're in conference championship week. I mean, that's day one stuff. I mean, it blew my mind that LSU was just so aloof on that play. And I mean, that was a humongous play in the game. It was a 10-point swing. I mean, look, the field goal gets blocked. That sucks. Stuff happens. But the fact that you didn't realize that that's a live ball, to me, shows lack of attention to detail. And I just expected more from Polian. I thought
Why?
he was, I was a special teams guy. I was a coordinator in Division I level. I understand what it entails. It's not easy. It's a thankless job most of the time. But, man, they're just so unprepared. Yeah. That shocked me. And, look, the pick is what it is. But if I'm an LSU fan, look, you're playing with house money anyway, in my opinion. It was a really good first year for Brian Kelly. But, going forward, looking at Jaden Daniels being able to throw the ball like that on a bum ankle should give you hope. And then watching Nussmeier come in and throw the ball like that should give you hope. And when you're rotating 5 men on the defensive line, it's just a matter of time. It's like, water hitting stone. It's not going to crack it at first, but you give it enough time, it's going to make its way through. I thought LSU fought. I thought they really fought. They didn't quit. You saw how they came out in the second half. But when you have the depth problem that LSU does on defense, Georgia, you have to catch the breaks. And Georgia caught a lot of breaks. They earned a lot of breaks, and LSU made mistakes. But if I'm an LSU fan, I'm not waking up this morning or waking up Sunday morning, crying into my Kleenex and looking at pictures of Joe Burrow.
What did you react to the Final Four being set?
I thought they got it right. I mean, I thought they got it right. I thought it was pretty easy, actually. I thought the biggest question wasn't, who's in. It's who was going to be 3 and who was going to be 4. Would they put Ohio State 3 and have that Michigan matchup that got 17 million views on that Saturday and on Fox? But like my question, and look, I know fans are going to be, oh well, my team should have got in, or I'm glad my team's in. Fans short for fanatical, I get it. But when you look at Alabama, for example, compared to TCU played an extra game. They lost in overtime. They had one less loss. They both have strength of records in the top 10. They have a common opponent that they both played on the road, and TCU beat them worse than what Alabama did. Now, if TCU played Alabama on a neutral field, who would I bet on? I'd take Bama money line. But you can't operate and make these decisions based on hypotheticals. You have to go off the loose criteria, I guess, that they use. And when you look at it, it's like Lil Wayne said, women lie, men lie, but numbers don't lie. And when you look at the metrics that matter, TCU should have been in over Alabama.
How do you like the matchups just on paper early on?
I think Georgia would have been a lot happier playing TCU than they would have Ohio State, because if LSU is going to be able to throw the ball like that, if C.J. Stroud doesn't, pull a Jody Foster and panic during the whole game like he's been known to do in big games, they got Marvin Harrison Jr. We know J.N.S. is a monster. Egbuka is a monster. They have time to get healthy. I mean, Travion Henderson, Mayan Williams. Ohio State has guys that are athletic enough to score. I don't know if Ohio State's going to be able to stop Georgia offensively when they're cooking like they are and Stetson's making the throws that he made. When you watch that Georgia-LSU game, from the camera angle, it looked like, well, Stetson Bennett, that was a really good throw. But when they show from behind the quarterback, the way he was anticipating where he was putting the ball, I mean, Stetson is I don't know if he's the milkman, the mailman. He's just the man right now. But I think Ohio State and Georgia is an interesting matchup. TCU and Michigan, as long as Garrett Riley doesn't make the dumbest play calls of all time like he did toward the end of the game there in overtime, I think TCU is going to be able to score some points. The question is that defensive line against Michigan's offensive line. If Michigan's able to run the ball effectively, that play-action game is going to hit. But look, TCU's not going to line up and play zero coverage like Ohio State did the first half. They're not going to give Michigan these huge plays, and they're better than Purdue was up front. I think that TCU-Michigan game is going to be pretty tight.
How wild do you anticipate today being with the transfer portal being open for business?
Well, I mean, Devin Leary just hopped in. It's going to be crazy. I mean, look, DJU is going to probably end up at Bishop Sycamore or somewhere like that. But look, we're in the age of the transfer portal. It's going to be nuts, man. I mean, now that undergrads can get in, who knows? It is a totally different era of college football. If you're a fan of a team that needs to flip their roster, college football is like, the extreme house makeover now. Oh no, we were bad last year, but move that bus. Now look at us. We're a top 10 team.
Right. Devin Leary, NC State quarterback, just put his name into the transfer portal. This is going to be a crazy day. I think Jake is right.
Just real quick, one on the portal. Do you think that there's any real smoke to Drake May to Alabama? Because you see that they had a couple, obviously, moves made.
Look, with the way North Carolina finished the year, nothing would shock me with Alabama. I mean, Drake May was committed to Bama before he ended up going to North Carolina. I know he's a legacy there, but in today's game, that really means nothing. I mean, it's, again, where's your best opportunity? I would put it at 40% if I had to guess right now that I think he ended up at Bama. But, look, Nick Saban didn't make the playoff. Georgia did. If Georgia wins it again, I mean, they're already going to pull out all the stops. But, look, Dark Emperor Saban's going to put on that cloak and start just hitting people with electricity.
The crimson sport coat, bro. That's when he means business.
Yeah, that's how he expressed his rage.
What do you make of Deion Sanders accepting the Colorado job?
I think it's smart for Colorado. I think it makes him relevant. Now, we'll see how Deion does. I know he's going to get the players in there. Being in the Power 5 is a little bit different. You're not going to have the sway or the pull like you did in the SWAC. But I think he's going to be fine. I thought what he said to the players was totally fine. Like, look, if you want to get in the portal, get in the portal. Like, You're either all the way in or you're all the way out. I'm bringing some guys over here that are really good players, and that's not a lie. And, like, the whole story and narrative of, oh, the players have it so bad because the coach can go anywhere he wants at any point in time, and he can get paid for NIL. Well, now you can do that. So guess what? What does that make you? A commodity. If you want to dance in the business world, there's a downside to it too. So if I come in and say, listen, we're bringing in this tight end who's a legit NFL player, you're probably not going to start. If you want to hit the transfer portal, then go ahead and do it. That's part of the deal. I mean, I've watched coaches do that without the transfer portal.
Yeah.
When kids it's called getting processed. But back in the day, you had to sit out a year. And I would much rather have a coach, if I'm a player, come to me and say, hey, man, look, you're probably not going to play here, so you may want to transfer if you really want to play. Thank you for just shooting me straight instead of saying, yeah, man, you definitely got a chance to play. And then going into staff room and being like, listen, we all know Derek has no chance to play, but just in case Will gets hurt, let's lie to him like he does.
Yeah, I agree, man. That's the way to get the trust of these players immediately. How have the early days of Hugh Freeze been taken in on the Plains?
Pretty good. I mean, you're going to have all the people that are screaming and kicking. They've kind of quieted down. But again, they'll be the first people at Toomer's Corner with a Iceman shirt if he starts winning. So that was neither here nor there. It's just everybody trying to get their Twitter likes up. I think he's going to be fine. I got to see how he does in the portal. I think they're about to get 2 offensive linemen that they really, really, really need. That's been the biggest deficiency of Auburn's team, has been up front on that offensive line. It's tough to get anything going, regardless of skill players, if you can't run block or you can't pass protect. I think he's done a good job. I think he did a good job on game day, saying all the right things, being transparent and genuine. And now you got to go out there and recruit and get players in there. I mean, it's like you said on game day, if you're a really good player and you want to play, come to Auburn. You can play pretty fast.
Is there a bowl outside of the Final Four, outside of the playoffs, that intrigue you?
Yeah. There's some interesting matchups. I believe Mississippi State plays Illinois. That one is kind of quite fascinating to me. You talk about 2 totally different identities going at each other. Outside of that, I'm interested to see how many yards Jordan Travis runs for against that Oklahoma defense. I know they're playing FSU. That's going to be interesting. There's some good ones. But let's not forget, we got Army-Navy coming up this weekend, man. Yeah. I'm excited about that one.
Absolutely. Jake, always good to see you, man. Have a great rest of the week. We'll talk soon.
Hey, you guys as well. Appreciate y'all.
All right, man. There's Jake Crain checking in this morning. Crain & Company is where you can find him. Remember, every morning you can find them on YouTube as well if you want to get in and follow Crain & Company. Great college football discussion happening over there. Deion Sanders takes the job at Colorado. And
Travis Hunter to Colorado?
Or
does he go bigger?
Absolutely.
Because
no. I think that he's coming with Prime.
I think he committed to Prime in the hopes that, he was obviously a Florida State commit basically his entire tenure in high school, and then I think he thought that Prime told him, we're going to go Florida State together next year. So now he almost has to play. He's not going to play in the country, and it shows, and he has to go to Colorado again.
Things could be worse.
Yeah,
Things
could be
worse.
But I think this is not how he saw it playing. I don't think either one of them, but he's going. You think they're lockstep together?
Yeah. I think imagine. That, Shedeur Sanders, obviously his son, if you see, Deion yesterday at his opening press conference was looking around. He's like, where's Shedeur?
Yeah.
Where's Shedeur?
Where's my guy?
Shedeur's like,
Dad,
there's
coach.
Your quarterback.
Y'all are welcome.
He says at the press conference, there's your quarterback. And, the video of him addressing the team, I thought, look, man, I love that type of coaching style. I think that, first off, if you needed to see a body of work before you bought in to Deion Sanders, the coach, then Jackson State over the last 3 years should have given you the peek into what could be. He took a program that was always habitually in the cellar of the SWAC. They were no player on the SWAC scene. And I don't know SWAC, the conference, as well, to talk in depth of it, but I do know well enough that Jackson State was not a contender year in, year out when Deion Sanders took the job. It's not as if he swooped into the SWAC and said, give me the best program. He settled into Jackson, Mississippi, where they didn't have running water for a lot of his tenure there, or at least water that they trusted to drink. I think that they were on the water boil mandate for the majority of the time that he was on the job the last 3 years. So for him to go in there, go 27-5, and if you watch, what he has on social media or what he has in depth behind the scenes for you to keep up with. I mean, Jackson State is a program, and he runs that thing like the NFL. He runs it like the SEC. If you've ever had the chance to see the inner workings of a big-time college football program, of an NFL football program, I mean, that's the feel that Jackson State had immediately. And there's only one reason why that was there, and that was Deion Sanders, because he's not only bringing his reputation, his football mind, his social media presence, his
legacy,
ability to bring people in. I mean, he is bringing the best everywhere he goes, not only in himself, but the people that he's bringing with him. And he has this ability in leadership to, if you saw him address his team, it's not for everyone. Some people will see that and be turned off by it. But in sports, to me, in certain areas, you have to be polarizing. You can't ride the fence on some things. And this is one of them. You have to be open and honest with your team. You have to be fully transparent. You have to talk to these guys as if you know them. You have to allow them to get to know you. And his style of communication, while it might not be for everyone, is on full display on Saturday when he addresses his team. And you can feel the respect. Those guys aren't even blinking looking at him. I mean, it is just people looking in awe, on just living and dying on every word that he says. And look, I'm not here to tell you that Colorado's going to win the national championship, but one thing I can promise you that Colorado will have, and will have immediately in a transfer portal world, is players. And before you implement strategy, before you talk about policy, before you talk about disciplinary code and whatever goes into running your program, you better make damn sure you got players to execute that with, because if not, you'll keep swimming last in the Pac-12, which is where Colorado sits today. They are 12th in the league right now.
I have the clip if you want to play it.
Yeah, let's play it.
Already got him.
I mean, the Marine Corps. I mean, he's got them barking back at him as if he's been there for 2 years. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, man, Colorado,
you don't know their names yet.
It's about to be different at Colorado. Deion Sanders is about to either turn Colorado into something. I'm not saying a powerhouse, but he's going to turn Colorado. The feeling around Colorado's football program has already begun to change. When he gets there and starts putting it all together, it's going to create change that it's going to be impossible to ignore.
That's smart. Say that smart. Smart. Tough.
Coach.
I mean,
already.
You know what I mean? Like, I kind of love that it is Colorado. I really do. Like, that is so far off the radar and such a place in college football that you never would have put those two together, but has had a bit of success in the college football world. 1990 national champs, Jerry DiNardo and Les Miles on the staff. But if you remember that time period, they were getting players now. Cordell Stewart out of John Ehret was from New Orleans.
Fifth down.
Ended up at Colorado through the Hail Mary against Michigan in the Big House, to Michael Westbrook, who was a player who went on to play for the Washington football team, now Commanders, for a long time and had a really good career. But, I mean, they were bringing players to Colorado. We have Coach Weiner. Keep an eye out for Coach Weiner here because I want to get right to him, but I don't want to lose it. We got him? All right, let's get over to Coach Neil Weiner, who is celebrating. And, look, this is going to be a big week for Dunham. It's an enormous week for Dunham, going back to the Dome for the first time in a long time.
Over here.
Oh yeah. On Friday, there was a thriller that went down at Dunham's neighborhood football field. If you saw some of the images that came out of that place, man, it was as beautiful of a Friday night that you could paint. And the football game played out. Dunham outlasted UGA 35-28. Jackson House, Dunham's quarterback, who is Matt House's son, had an incredible night. But here to talk about it is the Dunham head football coach, a good friend, and has been around Louisiana high school football for a long time. And to see him take the Tigers to the Dome, I know there are a lot of people pulling. We're pulling for him, and good to see it happen. And it's good to have Coach Neil Weiner here with us on this Monday morning talking a little bit about it. Coach, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Jordy. Doing great, man.
Take me to Friday night, man. We actually, my son played in a middle school basketball tournament at Dunham over the weekend, and people were just still riding high from the game on Friday night and talking about the experience. How about from the head coach's point of view? What was Friday night like for you?
Well, it was pretty special, for the Dunham community and, for our players, obviously, and coaching staff. It was a lot of fun. The way that you described it, I think is right. It was pretty special high school football. Overflow, standing room only crowd, and we had some very, I think, well-intentioned folks who reached out and really felt like we needed to move the game to a bigger venue. They felt like it may showcase Dunham better. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that you can showcase Dunham better than what we did on Friday night with that crowd, that type of performance. I think it showed what our school is all about.
A little bit about your team, Coach. It's interesting to find out that I think originally your quarterback was an eighth grader, and a very talented eighth grader at that. I mean, that eighth grade class at Dunham is very special. But then obviously Matt House gets the defensive coordinator job at LSU, and that changes things up for you when Jackson gets to campus. Talk to me a little bit about how that works for a high school coach. As you feel like you got your roster set, then maybe a big move comes into town and it kind of shakes up your team, and now here you are knocking on the doorsteps of the Dome.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome chain of events. We probably we're actually going to have our defensive, MVP, our defensive end, Jake Rizzo, who's 6'4", 240. He was our backup quarterback last year, and we were probably going to rely on him to be our starting quarterback. But we also had, have Elijah Haven, who's an eighth grader phenom. And then through the course of spring football and summer, we also found out we've got a ninth grader in Logan Sorrell who's going to be a big-time prospect. So the quarterback position for the future looked great, but at the moment, we were going to have to rely on a two-way player playing defensive end and quarterback, which is not ideal if you want to make a deep run to have somebody have to do that. And I got a text message from our admissions office, and a lady working in there said, Coach, one of the LSU coaches has 4 kids, and they're supposed to be coming tomorrow to tour the school
transfer portal.
And so I immediately said, okay, well, which coach? And found out, okay, it's Matt House. I hit Google, Matt House family. Found
Facebook.
Out Jackson House was the quarterback. Went to huddle.com. And saw his highlights,
we'll take him
2,800 yards passing or rushing, state championship. And then I sent a text to Joe Sloan, and I said, Joe, Calicai's got a returning quarterback, Parkey's got a returning quarterback, UGA's got a quarterback. Get this done, and it was great.
Oh yeah.
Coach House actually called later that afternoon and said, look, I'm not going to be able to be there myself. But my wife is coming, and I just wanted to be able to reach out and kind of find out some things. And it's the truth. I mean, we had a great young man that could have been our quarterback for us, and we would have found our own personality with him. But from the moment Jackson stepped foot on campus, he just elevated everybody's game. It's the truth. When your dad's an LSU football coach, Like that's instant cool points.
Yeah, for sure.
know?
Absolutely.
And then you go, oh, well, you won a state championship in your state. Well, that's instant respect from your teammates when you show up in the locker room. And he was just extremely hardworking kid. And it really did. Everybody stepped up their game when he showed up on campus.
Yeah, I know everybody on your campus this weekend was talking about his performance on Friday night and just how gutsy it was. But a lot of people were talking about the underclassmen that you had contributing to you. I know you had 2 big interceptions late in the game by 2 freshmen that came scoring across. How do you not get lost in the sauce a little bit, of this week and flush Friday night, which seems like it was an instant classic that people will talk about for years and years, to focus on St. Charles, who I know has you guys' attention after what happened last season?
Yeah, last 2 seasons they've beat us in the quarterfinals. I think that's probably the greatest thing that could possibly happen for our kids and our program. If it was somebody we weren't familiar with, we may be kind of resting on what happened Friday. But since it is somebody that we are familiar with and we have so much respect for, we use the old 24-hour rule. Everybody enjoyed it Friday night and Saturday, and then, Sunday it was time to get to work. And we have a really mature group of players. They really believe, the journey, the steps right in front of you. The ordinary stuff is really what gets you to celebrate all the obvious stuff to everybody else. And so I'm grateful. We get to play on Friday, which is great.
Yeah,
so our Monday through Thursday routine gets to stay exactly the same. So it's a challenge, obviously, when you win a big game, but our kids are locked in.
I know it's about the team and about the program, Coach, but everybody who is around here recognizes your name and the family that you bring to high school football. Have you had a chance just to have that conversation with your old man Dale, and I know that those are cool chats to share with your dad?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I shared it with our team. I mean, I've either been a high school coach or been in the house of a high school coach my entire life. Right. So, I don't find my identity in coaching football. I find my identity in my faith and God. But, high school football has been at the center of my life forever. So, anytime you get a chance to go play in the Superdome, play for a state championship, wherever it might be, that's really special. The fact that my dad, has did it so long and did it the right way for so long, to try to model our program after, his style and his character has certainly been a priority for me. And so for us to be able to share a big hug after the game on Friday night, and knowing that he loves and supports me, through thick or thin, it's pretty special time for sure.
No way any tests scheduled this week at Dunham, right? I mean,
film test.
Well, it still is the Dunham School. We still have a lot of honors and AP classes going on. As a matter of fact, one of our teachers, she's awesome. She's sweet as can be. But I think it was Saturday morning. She sent me an email saying, "Coach, we got an LSU dual enrollment class for several of your players on Thursday. I can't reschedule. How are we going to do that?" So no, there's still some tests. I will tell you though. There's no school on campus Friday. Everybody will be down in New Orleans, so we're excited about that.
Looking forward to getting down there and watching, Coach. It's a great story, man, and a lot of people in high school football pulling for you and your program, and that was an instant classic on Friday night, a great win, and best of luck this week. Thanks for a couple of minutes.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Appreciate being on.
You got it, man.
Coach, if you need any motivation, St. Charles Catholic, favored by 8, just so you know, bring it to the bulletin board material.
Well, you know what? I mean, seriously, I don't always buy into that stuff. But I think Calvary Baptist was an 8-point favorite. I think UI was probably a 2 or 3 touchdown favorite. So we love to be the underdog. That sounds great.
Go get him, Coach. Thank you, man.
All right, thank you, guys.
There he is, Dunham head coach Neil Weiner checking in this morning. And look, Coach has, like he said, he has either lived, played, been around high school football his entire life. I started at Catholic High when I was in high school, and Neil was actually he was kind of going out as I was coming in to Catholic High, and there was a very special relationship that he had with his dad that you could see on the sideline, and everybody that knew Neil, watched Neil, was around Neil would say, he's going to coach football, he's going to be great. And then he was on that Redemptorist staff that kind of feels like the LSU 01 staff, if you look back at it. It had Is Coach still here?
He's still here.
Okay.
He's taking up all the
yes,
big
that's
get,
right.
get
That's
your
right.
flowers, Coach.
But I mean, it was because that's when I started covering high school football. They would send me to Redemptorist, and I would like go hang out with these guys in the middle of the day. It was like sitting in football
Something special
class.
is happening.
Like Todd Black would be on the board, Neil Weiner would be in there, David Brewerton would be in there, Sid Edwards would be in there. I mean, guys would walk through there. Who was the DB that played at LSU, played with the Indianapolis Colts?
Eugene Daniels.
Eugene Daniels was in there. I mean, it was incredible, man. I guess you have to look back on those days in a week like this, Coach. Maybe not right now, but when it all kind of hits you of just how the journey has been.
Yeah, no, that was a special time. I mean, I'm spoiled rotten. Finished school at LSU. Catholic High had a nepotism policy, and so I couldn't go work, over there. Yeah. I mean, Catholic High Man of the Year, student body president, and I can't work there. Are you kidding me?
Right.
And but I went to Redemptorist with Sid, and man, what a special time. We went 14-0, went to the Dome my very first year, and I thought, man, this is easy. And then 2 years later, we beat Patterson 15-0, move up to 4A and beat John Curtis. So, man, everybody should do it like this. And but I remember my dad telling me then, enjoy it and appreciate it because you never know if you'll ever have the opportunity to be back. And I think all of our coaches on that staff truly did enjoy that. And Sid is just, man, so awesome. He gave me my first part-time job as a 14-year-old.
Wow.
He was the director for Summer League Baseball at Alex Box Stadium back in 1990, and he hired me to take out the trash and clean up after games and stuff. And then he'd take me home, stop at Burger King, get me a bacon cheeseburger, and then fast forward, I graduated from LSU and he gives me my first full-time job. And I'll always be indebted to Sid Edwards. What a great man. And man, I don't know where he's going to be coaching next year. I think the folks at Central are crazy, but that's a whole other story.
I agree.
But man, what an incredible man and incredible football coach, and the staff that he put together was just amazing.
Really and truly, Coach. I know, and I'm going to get you out of here. I know you're pressed for time, but that staff. I mean, you have been on. You've been a head coach at Zachary. You've been a head coach at Dunham. You've seen the highs of high school football in Louisiana. That had to be one of the best staffs ever on the same campus together, right? I mean, I know I'm biased, but just spending time over there, you could feel it. You knew when you walked in the room, like, all of these guys are going to be something.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, the football part, obviously, we had incredible football players during those 4 years I was at Redemptorist. So I don't want to take anything away from those players at all because they were incredible. But the football coaching part, it seems kind of obvious, but the camaraderie, like the close-knit, the friendships, the relationship part was just so incredibly special. It's really what reminds me of what we have here. We've got great football coaches. If any of them, want to move on and be head coaches, they would do a great job at that. But the friendship, the kinship that we have, just the quality of men is what I love so much.
Thank you, Coach. Best of luck this week, man.
All right. Thanks, guys.
You got it. There he is. Coach Neil Weiner checking in, man, from Dunham High School. As we said, those days of covering high school football early in my media career are some that I still vividly can remember. I mean, I remember pulling up to Redemptorist at like 12 o'clock, 11:30 on a game day on Friday, getting ready for a big Friday night at the Rock. And all of those guys would be sitting in this little coach's office that is right next to the Redemptorist locker room. I mean, it was like a little cinder block building of 3 rooms and a bathroom. And they would be sitting eating Tony seafood that the Pizzolatas would come drop off. And they would be talking nothing but football. And I'm talking like the bones of football. They would have film from college teams, from high school teams, from NFL teams that they were looking at plays and schemes. A young David Brewerton, I mean, like none of them had to teach. You know what I mean? Like they were all just sitting there watching football, talking football, cutting it up. And like he said, the players that they're doing it with are like, Shelton Sampson, Jay Lucas, David Plaisance, Kyle Hebert. I mean, like, they were loaded. They were loaded during that time. Not only did they win football state championships, they won basketball state championships. And I didn't want to ask Neil directly about Coach Sid because obviously Neil just gave you the backstory of that's where he started. He got his coaching start, and even younger than that, he got his first job with Sid when he was 14 years old at the box. When Sid was running, this was when Sid was he used to chew the dip out of the Ziploc bag. He'd have the dip, not tobacco. He would snuff and put it, and he would take it and put it and he would coach the entire football game. I would go over to him, and I was his quarterback in my freshman year, and you would go over to him, and he would have dip all up on his teeth. But he was the absolute best that I played for. When I played for him, I will always remember that experience. I played for him for 1 year, and the impact that he had on my life. I mean, I would still, when I was in college, I would deliver him firewood. He would call me to go, he needed a refrigerator picked up one time, and he knew I had a truck. He made me go pick up this refrigerator for him to bring to his facility. I mean, always kept, and I didn't feel like this was some special relationship, that it was just me. I mean, you heard Neil Weiner talk. You would show up at his house in the young days, man, and Warwick Dunn would be there. Just kicking it, not doing any like babysitting his kids, And again, I don't know what's going on in the city of Central, or out there. I don't know what's going on. But when I read that he is not coming back and it wasn't his choice, like Neil Weiner, I agree. That's crazy, because he is he's about as good as our state can produce at that job. And for somebody to tell him that he can't do it, it better be a valid reason, man. I mean, there better be either somebody that you believe can get it over the hump, or there's it just feels very it feels very political. It feels very head scratching. It feels very what's going on. But I agree with Neil. Wherever he lands, you get a winner. Immediately. So. But back to Deion Sanders. We were talking about Deion Sanders real quick, and I want to make sure and say this before I get out of here today, because I think this is a big move for college football, and I think this is going to be a stepping stone for Deion Sanders to get to a enormous job, like top 5 job in college football. Or as he was addressing his team, I was thinking to myself yesterday, he may want to go to the NFL. I mean, I don't know where his motivation stops, because he's not intimidated by anybody, right? In fact, he almost intimidates you a bit on how much he puts his persona on you. If you're not ready to handle that, it could make you shy away a little bit. It could make you, just like he was talking to Eddie Robinson Jr., the head coach at Arkansas Pine Bluff, that said he's not SWAC. And, when he called him out, you better be ready for when you calling him out. And like he said, don't let my confidence be
perceived as arrogant.
Well, he said, don't let my confidence intimidate you. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I'm not being arrogant. This is just who I am. I know this is going to work. I know people are going to follow me. I know that I'm going to bring a plan that once it's implemented, it's guaranteed to produce results. And for him being at Colorado, I love the fact that it's Colorado. I'm telling you, I love the fact that it's at Colorado, because Colorado is off of the college football radar, but just close enough to the map where it can jump back into the mix, where it's had enough success in the history of the program where you can sell that it'll work, but it's also in a place that you can attract talent, and you could feel it. Yesterday, Deion looking around, talking about the community. No crime was the first thing that he said. And I'm telling you, if you don't think that crime statistics are now becoming primary recruiting conversations, you're out of your mind. These are conversations that are happening at people's coffee tables, that are happening in living rooms, that are happening in coaches' offices every single day. People are bringing up crime statistics of places that their kids are going to be landing at, especially when college kids are getting killed in the middle of the street like it's happened here in Baton Rouge over the last 2 months. That is happening in recruiting conversations, and Baton Rouge is one of the worst to recruit against or recruit against that at LSU. A lot of those conversations now, and I tell you, Saban, Smart, Fisher are the ones starting it because they know that Baton Rouge right now it's riddled with crime. Jackson, Mississippi, riddled with crime.
He got stolen from on his own team.
Absolutely, and you saw his social media and you watched his series. You saw the reaction that he had when his son's car got broken into during practice. You know, I mean, he's like, we're down here trying to help. We're down here trying to bring a positive message. We're down here trying to change the ways and change the facilities and the culture and everything that's going around it. And Shador's window gets cracked out and they rip up the inside. The first thing Prime says when he walks off of the plane last night, the climate, the air, Colorado, think about it. You're in Colorado. You're in a beautiful, beautiful place, right? Where the climate's beautiful. And the second thing he says, no crime.
For Prime.
No crime. So he's telling moms, dads, aunts, uncles, brothers, sisters, girlfriends, I'm bringing him to a safe place. I'm not going to have him caged in Jackson, Mississippi, where I got to threaten him if he leaves the hotel room the night before the game. I'm throwing him off the team because he might get killed. Those conversations aren't happening. Oh, yeah, and by the way, weed's legal. And don't think those conversations aren't happening at a very rapid rate in recruiting.
A&M.
Because if you're recruiting a culture and you're recruiting you're recruiting a specific player, that's prevalent in their life to the majority of them. And you're taking me to a state that it's legalized recreationally? I can go buy it at a head shop on campus? Yeah.
NIL.
And I got an NIL deal that'll buy it for you for free. Say what? Next thing you know, Deion Sanders is getting top 3 recruiting classes and cleaning up the transfer portal. Cleaning up. I can't wait to see the work that Deion Sanders does today.
Doesn't it show the maturity of him and how legitimate he wants to be as a head coach by taking the Colorado job? He's doing the stepping stones. He's doing it for real. Like, this isn't living off on primetime.
No, he's going to prove it at every stop.
And he's having to, and
he leaves Jackson State so much better than he found it. He's going to go to a place in Colorado where he's going to turn it around immediately. A year from today, the place will look nothing like it looks today. It'll have no feel to it. I do wonder what the conversations are like between Under Armour and Nike. Because Colorado is a Nike school, and as soon as he jumped off that jet, they threw that Nike hat on him. I got to imagine somewhere Kevin Plank and Under Armour saying, oh, man, that's one of our top guys.
I'm Prime, baby.
They also have Shador as an athlete.
Yeah, absolutely they do. Absolutely, Shador's he is an athlete with Under Armour. I wonder. I mean, Colorado is a big Nike school. Mm-hmm. It's not like they're just some kind of we'll take them. It's in Michigan State. I mean, they have a brand. They have pushed, and I wonder what those discussions were like. I thought that he was going to wherever he came, he was bringing Under Armour with him.
I think he's going to do it with Shador. He's going to have some sort of, how they do it. He's going to do something to where it's kind of like Michael Jordan covering up the Reebok. You're going to see something from Prime where it's subliminal. But you mentioned Jackson State and how he left it better than he found it. What happens to him now? There's so much overhead.
It's a good question. I saw where on Saturday when he addressed the team, he kind of also said who he would like to take it over. Okay. You know what I mean? And look, those can go one of two ways. I'd imagine that Sean Payton told the Saints that he wanted Dennis Allen to take over. At some point you might have to tell the guy, hey, you're a good coach. Let us do the hiring.
But I'm talking about all that overhead. They weren't prepared for that.
We're the ones that found you. No, I mean, and look, whoever the SWAC commissioner is, PJ, Perry, who's the SWAC commissioner? I'm sorry for being so.
PJ.
Charles McClellan, the SWAC commissioner, if he didn't get a television deal done with the conference to secure money coming in for what he knew Deion was going to bring, to me, that's a fireable offense. If you didn't see the business opportunity that Deion was not only bringing to Jackson State, that he was bringing to the full conference, that you couldn't have gone to a conference, or to a conference partner and said, hey, air our games for X amount of money. And that way, when Deion says, I'm out, Reg, come on in. Yeah, Perry Franklin coming up here. Perry White. Perry Franklin owns the building. And they got work going on here. My bad. Perry White, of course, the co-host.
Disrespected.
Co-host of Chopping It Up with Kador. Tell me real quick about so what's the reaction to Southern Falls to Jackson State Saturday night in the SWAC championship? Immediately after that, Deion Sanders is putting out video of him addressing his team, confirming to his team that he's taking the Colorado job. What is the immediate effect, the instant effect that has on the conference?
I think the immediate effect is you look at all the millions on top of millions of dollars of publicity, PR, marketing that he brings. Deion Sanders had his own marketing team. You look at his deal with Barstool. You look at his own with his son Deion Sanders with not Deion Sanders Jr. that is over his media. Shedeur is the quarterback. Shiloh is the defensive back. Yeah. Then he had Deion Sanders Jr. that he hired to come in and handle all the media. That's right. And that is completely taken off. And you talk about all these different aspects. Now you're missing out on these extra eyes that has been selling the program and that has been selling the conference. What the conference did do, they have a deal that they're going to renegotiate with ESPN that is coming up, in which it was a bad deal signed by the previous commissioner that they're going to try to restructure. But they also signed a deal with a company that's owned by Byron Allen, of course, with the Weather Channel, that is with HBCU Go. It is a 10-year deal worth $100 million, $10 million a year that's supposed to be distributed around the conference that now puts the SWAC in linear TV, which regional markets across the nation. But when you talk about the aspect of what Deion brought, he's prime time for a reason. Sure. When you talk about having those lights, camera, actions, he brought Good Morning America to the campus with Michael Strahan. He brought College Game Day to the city of Jackson. Yep. Now, what do you do as a conference to build off of that? You got to be able to keep the energy. And for me, I think the conference missed the mark in terms of trying to put it all on the shoulders and the back of Deion instead of building off of it as you went along.
Is Eddie George and some of those other guys, Tennessee State's head coach, who tried to follow the model of hiring a big-name guy, are they receiving as much?
There's only one coach, Deion said. There's only one prime time. Mm-hmm. And I think when you look at the notion of what the model of what a lot of people want to go, because Grambling did it with Hugh Jackson, hiring a former NFL coach. It's hard to model that after Coach Sanders just because you are a celebrity, because you have celebrity status, NFL status. Everybody doesn't like the attention that Deion Sanders brings to the table. Yeah. And it's hard to generate that energy. A lot of people can step in the room and be a former NFL player or a celebrity. Don't mean you demand the attention of the room and all cameras have to be on you.
What about for Southern? And what's coming up on Chopping It Up with Kador? You guys coming up here in about an hour?
Yeah, of course, we're talking about this topic today of Coach Sanders taking the money. Yeah. And, and going over to Colorado with Southern. I don't know. You lose a championship. Deion Sanders and his team go 12-0. They win a second consecutive SWAC championship. And the interesting part, Coach Sanders is going to coach this team, although he's taking the job. He's going to coach this team in the Celebration Bowl, which is going to kind of be different, especially when you look at the transfer portal opening up today. Yeah.
Perry White coming up here as the co-host, Chopping It Up with Kador. Make sure you are subscribed to their YouTube page. They got great stuff every Monday coming at you live here, and you can always find it a part of their YouTube channel and what they got going on over there. Chopping It Up with Kador, as he said, will be talking a lot about the Deion Sanders news of Sanders taking the Colorado job, as that was announced on Saturday night. Good stuff today. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. Jake Crain for stopping in and talking a little college football. Coach Neil Weiner of the Dunham Tigers talking about their successful win on Friday night and heading off to the Dome. And, of course, our guy Perry White from Chopping It Up with Kador. Catch them coming up at 10 a.m. Remember, this is a huge day here at FM Digital Media. We got Chopping It Up with Kador coming up In about an hour, we've got the Will Wade podcast airing at 1 o'clock today. We've got Nick Diaz and Out of My League debuting at 3 o'clock today. And then we've got Mic'd Up with Mikey Matuk at 6 o'clock this afternoon, going 6 to 8 p.m. All properties here of FM Digital Media. You can find all of that stuff in their YouTube channel. Hey, and one quick shout out to our friend Lance Beal, our lawyer, for sending us up to Georgia, sending us over to Atlanta, getting that coverage. Beal was the title sponsor of that. We appreciate what he's done for us and all the support that he has shown for us. Lance Beal, your attorney, if you're looking for him, he's over in Acadiana. He can help you out with any of your legal representation. BealAbear.com. BealAndAbear.com.
Can I say something before you get out of here,
Absolutely.
man? Congratulations to you, man, turning a vision into reality and building this thing and watching it to continue to grow, man. That's what it's all about, having a vision and watching this thing do what it do, man. So congratulations. If anybody hasn't told you, I'm telling it to you looking at you, man, to watch this empire grow. It's amazing, man.
Thank you, Perry. I'm glad to have you a part of the family, man. Check them out. Chopping It Up with Kador coming up here shortly on this Monday. Have a great day. We're back with you tomorrow morning.